Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tea with TPS, informal conversations with thought leaders in India and the world. Today, the first time in Tea with TPS, we have three dynamic ladies from the United States who serve the people in the US and India. They are the directors of the Empower Foundation. The motives are education, motivation, and passion. It's a not-for-profit organization in the United States, but it works for people in India also. We'll hear more about the institution, the foundation from them. But let me welcome Geeta Sethumadhavan, Dr. Ranjini Pillai, and Mrs. Deeta Nair. And Deeta is the one who is responsible for the show because she's the one who coordinated it. Thank you, Deeta, and welcome all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you must have a lot to say about the Empower Foundation. The name itself is very, very striking because you mean empower the women. And today we just have a woman president of India and also a tribal woman who has become the best playback singer. So what more do you want for empowering of women in India? So you must have been excited about both these things. So two tribal women to come to the forefront of the nation is something really remarkable. So let me ask how you want to speak on various aspects. Of course, Geeta Sethumadhavan is an entrepreneur. Ranjini Pillai is a comprehensive dentist. She will explain what it is. And Deeta Nair, who calls herself a proud and content homemaker. But from what she does, I don't think she is devoting much time to the home. Look at the number of things that she does. And of course, she manages both the family, and that is where the balance comes. So let me ask you, Dr. Ranjini, about the foundation's its objectives very briefly.
Well, sir, good evening to you and good morning from us.
Yes.
Hope you're doing well today. So our baby, the Empower Foundation, was created with the primary objective of helping a young girl realize her dreams through education. We want her to be independent, employable, and confident.
You mean women in India, girls in India, right?
Yes, absolutely. So yes, and where did that thought come from? It came from Charity Begins from Home. And when you say again in India, and it's very specifically Kerala, all three of us are Malayalis, so our girls are specifically from Kerala. So we make sure that the young lady is in the lower economic strata and gets no other help from any other source. So as a foundation, we have a 3-arm system. So the 3 arms, which helps this young lady, the 3 arms that hugs her and nurtures her to grow up into, again, like I said, a confident young person who gives.
You have mentors in India for each of these girls.
We do. That's where the 3 arms are going to come up. So that's our thought process. So if you think about the young lady who's standing still, she gets 3 arms from us that holds her, nurtures her, and allows her to.
And that is for several years, not just 1 year or 2 years, till they complete education.
That's correct. Till they finish their graduation. And some of our girls, we are even helping them through because our sponsor really wants to see them through. They want to see them in a position where they can let go and say, okay, she doesn't need my help anymore. So
Deeta says she is a passionate matchmaker. Maybe she goes beyond graduation. Deeta, tell us about your achievements.
Probably I could do that too. Hello, namaskaram. Thank you for the opportunity, sir. That's the most important thing for us as well as a baby and a new foundation, for you to bring us on your show is a great thing. I'm also one of the starting founders of the Empower Foundation. Though on paper, I have a designation of CEO, all three of us together do everything for the foundation. So let me talk a little bit about its activities. Since the incorporation, the foundation, we've come a long way. We've had a few in-person meet and greet events with career counselors and motivational speakers. But then the pandemic happened, and so we were forced to move online. So besides the annual scholarship during the pandemic, we were able to provide each of our girls a small, sufficient amount to, help them during the pandemic time. And this was capable. We were capable of doing it by the generosity of eminent personalities who, together with the foundation, conducted online concerts. And not just for our girls, we were even able to provide about 21,000 meals to families in New Jersey that depended on the community food bank here. Besides that, our foundation has started a series called TEF Talk, where we bring in successful and accomplished women to talk to our young ladies and motivate them. We've done about 5 of them thus far. We have spiritual classes for our girls. All of this is via Zoom sessions. And besides all of that, we have various senior professionals come and talk about job opportunities, career counseling, about cyber crimes, women health. And then we also started something called Art of Speaking, where with the help of a mentor, we started a series of soft skills development. Especially for our graduating girls, so that we prepare them to enter the workforce confidently. We've also done a few annual, foundation days, as you call it, and we've brought in young, successful, motivating ladies as chief guests.
How many years has it been going?
This has been 3 years. We've completed 3 years. We're moving on to.
So how many girls have you so far benefited?
We have about close to 200 girls and close to 200 sponsors. And we have a little over 35 mentors.
So the sponsors are in the US and the recipients are in India. That is the pattern, right?
Yes, the recipients are in India, the mentors are in India, but the sponsors are worldwide. From pretty much every continent, every place, we have at least one sponsor from there. From Africa to China to UK, USA, Middle East, Australia, Singapore. I'm sorry if I've missed a few places, but we've tried.
But that's a truly multinational organization.
Yes.
Geeta, tell us about your future plans.
My future plans, I think retirement for my husband.
No, I'm talking about the foundation. I'm coming to personalities.
Foundations, yes. So now we are at a very, we are way beyond our dreams. I mean, this is not, we didn't think it would go so smoothly. We have to be extremely thankful to our sponsors, our mentors, and even our young ladies, who take on the responsibility we give them, small things like sending in papers, everything. They are so on top of it. So we are at a very happy place, I should say, right now. So it's.
But you want to expand it further.
Yes. So always is what next. Yes, what next? Yes, what next? So, like Ranjani and Deeta said, we have like this 3-arm model, which has worked without much glitches in the state of Kerala right now. And we'd really like to see this expanded to the other states in India. I know each state will come with its own, we may have to redo the model a little bit. So we are in talks with maybe a couple of people in Tamil Nadu to start off there. And hopefully we can make this happen, because the happiness is not just the kids, it's the sponsors and the mentors. It's just amazing, hearing them, their happiness, and the way they talk about the
You
foundation.
keep following their progress through the mentors and
Yes.
directly.
Yes, we follow, and directly too. I think most of us, the three of us, have most of our kids' numbers, and they reach out to us directly too, not always through the mentors. They do.
But did you have any kind of problem with any of them? No.
No, I mean, I wouldn't say no. There have been, one or two who decided to get married and go. But most of them have continued with their education, which is good. Then they've actually...
So we actually... Yeah, I was going to say that we do interview these girls. Each of us, Dita, Geeta, and me, we do personally speak to each of these girls and find out how motivated they are and what their aspirations in life is. And that's how we pick them. So they're not like just picked up because somebody told us. It is only after an interview process that we decide on supporting a person. Yeah. Sorry, Geeta, please continue.
I'm sure my viewers will want to know where you come from, each of you. I know you're all Malayalis, but there must be a background. Can you tell us, Ranjani, first, about a little bit about you? How did you become, from dentistry to, charity? What was that progress, and what it motivated?
Sure. So where did I come from? Born in Thrissur, my native place is Thrissur, but raised in Trivandrum, which is my dad's native place. I did my education pretty much the whole...
You have a home here in Trivandrum?
In Trivandrum, yes. I do have a home there, yes. And the rest of my family is all in... my sister's in Ernakulam, my brother's in Bangalore, my dad is in Trivandrum. So I do come very often and meet them and all that.
Okay, next time you know which place to come also.
Absolutely, absolutely. I've heard so much about you and Leia Chichi there, and we have a few friends who've spoken a lot about you. And you were in New York too, So you
have... It's been 10 years.
Right.
10 years.
So wherever you've been, you've left a mark in every place you've been. So people in the US cannot just, Ambassador Srinivasan is somebody who's like, everybody's heard of you.
It's more because of Karuna. Lekha's relations are more permanent than mine. Diplomats meet each other, but after 3 years, you don't even see them or hear about them. Very few become friends. But most of our friends are Indians who she cultivated through Karuna. And that they lost. Diplomats are all gone. In New York, we cannot find anyone who worked with us. So there's a difference. Ours is temporary relationships, while the charity relationship is much stronger. Dita, tell us about yourself. A housewife, but...
Yeah, like I said, you also mentioned, I am a proud and content homemaker. But I was born in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, which is in East Africa. Then I moved to India, finished my college.
Did you move to India? At what age?
I came to Kerala, I think, when I was 11 years old.
And your parents, what were they doing in Dar es Salaam?
Dar es Salaam, both my parents were in the teaching profession.
I see.
Yeah, so I finished my college in Kerala, and then I got married to my husband and came to the US over 30 plus years ago.
What does he do? What does he do, or what did he do?
He was always a management consultant. He continues to do the same. Though I first came to Boston, we soon moved to New Jersey because his business required that. And ever since then, New Jersey has been my home state.
How did this idea come up in your mind?
So basically, I love living in New Jersey, and I've been always blessed to be part of many good causes here, whether it's in the US and in India. So through these, various activities, I've also met a few amazing individuals, and I can proudly say Lekha Chichi is one of them, who's also inspired me. So the philosophy of giving back is, when you reach a certain age, you start thinking like that. And so that's when I also decided, it's time. My boys have graduated, they've moved out. I have more time now, so let me start focusing on doing something else and giving back to my hometown from where I got my education. So I always say, sir, from like Her Highness Ashwati Tirunal Gauri Lakshmi Bai to my home cleaning lady here, Judy, who comes from Guatemala in South America. Each one of them has taught me something in life. And maybe because of all of that, I decided that, I think I should be doing something in return. And that is how
That's what happens to all of us. We are all inspired by different people.
Exactly. So,
Geeta, you are an entrepreneur. So tell us about your story.
I really surprises me that has always been in me to be an entrepreneur. I had a dad who was in the police service, a mom who was a teacher, and I remember.
Police service in India.
Yes, in Chennai. Yes, Tamil Nadu Police. Yes.
I see. Okay. Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm born and brought up in Chennai. I'm as much a Tamilian as I'm a Malayali, probably more a Tamilian. So, but entrepreneurship, yeah, you know what? It started with wanting to start a boutique when I was probably in my 12th grade, and my dad just gave me a look, and I'm like, okay, I'm not saying anything.
So when did you make your first million? Because entrepreneurs make millions. When did you make your first?
I wish. So when I came to Boston, I started my first business. I would bring, we had artifacts from India. So I always wanted to have that connect with, home. So artifacts from India. And then we found a big market for that here. And after which it was, then my kids came along. So took a little break, moved to Florida 20 years back, and started. I'm what would I say, in the event planner. I was an event planner for 7 years. Then I have another foundation which we do to encourage arts and artists from not just in India but local too. And of course now there is TEF. So a very happy and content person.
Like TED Talks, you have TEF Talks, is it?
Yes, we do have TEF Talks. Yes. We've had some wonderful, wonderful women on that. And not just the women who come on it, we see another side of our sponsors and our mentors, because they are the ones who interview these women. So, it's just so beautiful every time we are thinking of something, and when you see it as a reality, it's just so satisfying.
Very good. I myself been in the United States for a long time, so I have some ideas about your lifestyle and your approach to India, etc. But it may have changed. I left more than 15 years ago. So how is it now? The life in the United States as well as life in India. How would you compare? And also, is it difficult to bring up children? You always hear about the children going haywire, and you try to instill Indian culture and language, etc., in them, but it's not so easy. I always assured all these parents that don't worry about it. Indian culture can be looked after by 1.3 billion people. You let your children grow in the circumstance in which they are. Certainly values, yes, but don't force Indian habits on them. I used to say, some of them liked it, some others did not like. They said, "What? You are an Indian ambassador talking like this?" But that is true. There is no point. I would like to hear Ranjini about it. Is it such a difficult thing, or you have found a compromise? Living in the US, the joke about the Indians is that their Tan is in America, Man is in India, and Than is in Geneva and Swiss banks.
that third part I haven't heard. No, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a very good one.
The body is in the US, mind is in India, and the money is in the bank in Switzerland.
Yeah. So, your question was about, I mean, I think it is.
Difference, the style of life
Okay.
and bringing up children. That's one of the major aspects of all our lives.
That's true. That's true. So I'm going to say it very briefly in one line, actually. I would say that life is better in India, but living is better in the United States.
Very good.
Okay. So I mean, again, what that means is definitely, you have your people who were raised among, they're all in India. You have your family in India.
When you have
Yes.
so many relatives around. My father used to say, I don't know how you four guys grew up. I never saw you. Look at you spending all your time on your son. What is he doing? I never did that. You four of you grew up, and I don't know why. How? Because there are 3 or 4 homes around. my mother's brothers and various others. There was no time to, there was no particular need to give specific attention to a child.
Yes.
But here you have this entire world. Right?
Yes.
And so and your own safety net is not so strong. And of course, the United States is a welfare state. But at the same time, you have this cultural inhibitions and all that. So, briefly, how would you put it? I know you are all happy people, so I'm not suggesting that there is anything wrong. But how does it operate in your own mind?
In here, you mean in the United States?
Difference.
So, like you said, you put a word in there saying compromise. Did you have to make compromises? Yes,
Yeah.
of course. So life is about compromise. You decide what is most important for you. And I also feel that, and Raj also is of the same thought process, that there's only one job in this world that you have one chance at, and that's raising your children. So, whatever it takes, if you have your education, if you have your drive, the beauty of America is at any age, you can just pick up and run with it. But your children, once they are raised, that is done. So, yes, we did have to make quite a few compromises. And I proudly say that, yes, we did make compromises, and of which moving to North Carolina was a big compromise because both of us went to school in New York, started a life in New York. I had a beautiful network of friends and family there, and we chose to move to North Carolina so we can do that.
Not too far. North Carolina is not so far from New York. Right?
That's right.
People go to Los Angeles and San Francisco and still feel happy.
Yeah, right. So that's what we've done. And I have 2 girls, and we've concentrated a lot on their growth and development. And they're both in beautiful human beings in their chosen professional fields.
But at no point where you worried as to what will happen to my girls in the US. That is that's a standard feeling among, she's 12, therefore I must take her to India and things like that.
So can I be honest with you? Can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
I'm actually very happy that my girls are growing up in the US and they have grown up in the US. Their thought process is so open. They're so broad-minded. They're so accepting. They're so naive. That's again the only area where then they're very naive. So could they be taken for a ride? Probably yes. But growing up in India, I was not so naive when I was my children's age. I knew socially, who to put at an arm's length and who not to put at an arm's length. Kids who grow up here that way, they're very naive, but really smart.
Okay, Geeta, on the same topic, did you have a different experience?
Not really. I think we all migrated to this country early 90s. And so most of our stories are, kind of the same. I have a son and a daughter. And we moved from Boston when my daughter was about a year old. Raising a son and a daughter are very different. But they, I love it that they want to go to India, not to live permanently, but they love going to India.
They don't complain about mosquitoes. They don't complain about mosquitoes in Kerala.
No. I think we do it every year, so they know what to expect. Their only complaint is we only travel between Chennai and Kerala. Now we need to see the rest of India. So vacations are always in
So
either.
India is very different.
Yes.
How about you? You are more wedded to Kerala than others, right?
No, I'm same like Ranjini and Geeta also said. I also make it a point to visit India 2 to 3 times a year, and at least
No, you have
once.
stronger links than them, do you think?
No, I wouldn't say so. You know, Renju has family there, Geeta has family, so do I. So, you know, I think it's important that I must say that I do consider US my home, but India is my home away from home, where all our parents, grandparents, and cousins live. And so India is I always have one leg there and one leg here, is what my husband
That's what I
tells.
mean. It is tough.
It is tough. It is tough, but we somehow keep the balance in between, you know. We're able to manage that passion. The minute we step into India, we become complete Indians. And when we come back here, we become Indian Americans as well.
But somehow, most Indian Americans I have seen, I know a lot of them, are when they come to India, they are a bit disappointed that India is not doing as well as the United States. And that gives them a certain amount of feeling that, India is not doing well enough.
I disagree to that, Chetan. For some reason, I do not believe that. I think India is really going places, you know. Like you said at the beginning.
People say why you have only two-way roads? Why don't you have a four-lane highway? This kind of thing that you see all around in the United States. They say India is a huge country. Why don't you have a highway? Things like that.
Infrastructure-wise, many things
That's what I meant.
Yeah, those things do annoy us, but then at the end of the day, we're here, why don't we just live like them, Become an Indian when you're in India, enjoy everything else the country has to offer you, and be happy.
Like people, for example, will ask you in Trivandrum, what is your, waste processing system? There is no waste processing system.
There is no, yes.
Even today, there have been so many experiments, but we manage. In New York, if there is the workers' strike for one day, the whole city will stink.
Yes, falls apart here, yes.
India doesn't stink because some kind of weight of disposal, etc. is there. And now bigger countries are also coming around to that. They have started thinking that the centralized waste management probably creates more pollution from the point of view of climate change, etc. So they say that the disposal of waste at the source may be more, and that's what India has been doing all through.
Yes.
People are not thinking like that. Though I do not agree with that because in New York, in my son's apartment, once you throw it down the chute, that's the end of the story. You don't have to worry about it. And if you have a bad chair, you can just put it on the street in New York and somebody will pick it up. But here, you don't know what to do with all the furniture. You don't know what to do with that you don't need.
But that's also because, Chetan, you're comparing America is a place, it's huge. There's a lot of place for everything. Whereas India, size-wise, we're very small, probably as big as Texas maybe or California. I don't know the geographical dimensions. So in between that space, I think India is doing terrific.
A lot of people, multiple.
Yeah. So, besides all of that, I think India is...
So I just wanted to add something you said earlier about not forcing anything on your kids, and let them be, let them try to find their path and let them be. And yes, I always talk in Malayalam at home. I try to talk Malayalam to my kids because that's how, being in Chennai, my mom spoke Malayalam and that's how I know it.
Do they respond? Or
yes, they do. Mostly in English. But when they call India, they try their best to talk in Malayalam. But when my son went to college here, he actually took up one of his electives as Malayalam during one of his semesters and Hinduism. So, I just smiled to myself. Of course, he tried to come and correct my Malayalam after that, which was not something. And my daughter, who's here at the University of Florida, she's looks forward to that Hindu meal, which ISKCON serves free to all the kids. So I'm like, it's all there in them and just give them their time and, They will know. They are so smart. They know how to handle both very well, is my humble opinion.
Three of you will belong to another category of peoples than I have seen. I've seen many of them are in this dilemma, what to do with children, send them back to India, all this. And the children will never want to come back to India. And so that conflict is probably there in many people. But I always assure them that you must make them feel comfortable in the country of their adoption. And that's what Nehru advised to all the Indians who are going abroad. Only today we are talking about Pravasi ministry and bringing them Kerala, Loga Sabha, and all that. Pandit Nehru never believed in all that. He said, these people have made their homes elsewhere. Their loyalty should be to that country. And our interest in them is to make sure that they are comfortable culturally and emotionally. This is what he said in Parliament. But successive prime ministers, particularly his grandson, Rajiv Gandhi, is the one who changed the policy. He said that I expect Indians abroad to help me with technology, money, finance, etc. And therefore, we must take an interest in their life in general. I was in Fiji, there was a military coup against India, and Rajiv Gandhi instructed me to fight for the Indians. I said, how can I fight for the Indians? I'm a diplomat. It doesn't matter. My policy has changed. And then I said, they can throw me out, they can shoot me, anything can happen. You know what he said? He smiled and said, we will make a sacrifice of you.
That's politics right there for you.
I told him, well, sir, now I know my instruction. I'm leaving tomorrow, I told her. So, and there's a big change between Pandit Nehru to Rajiv Gandhi. And now, of course, political parties are vying with each other to cultivate the Pravasi, And that creates its complications also here. There's like, for example, this Loka Kerala Sabha. As though some people have been designated as the genuine representatives of the Indians abroad, which is not very fair at all. And so such things do because politicians are trying to make friends with various Indian communities abroad. But Rajiv Gandhi's point was right. We need lots from the US in terms of innovation, technology, though we support technology. But there would have been no San Jose without the Indians. You know that very well. But they cannot come and do that innovation here. No Indian has won a Nobel Prize in India, but they have won several Nobel Prizes abroad. So that kind of advantages that you have, opportunities you have are very welcome. And therefore, if there can be a give and take on this, it will be certainly good. So that's probably where we are. And coming back to empowering of women, you are all the three of you, your interest is empowering women. But how much are you empowered? What do you think, Geeta?
Good question, Chetan.
An empowered woman?
Excuse me?
Do you think that you are an empowered woman?
I do to a certain extent, but I also feel that I have a lot more to learn. Let me try and explain it in how...
As a woman, were you not empowered before? How did that transformation take place?
No,
is there a mentality or is there something specific?
No, so that's what I'm going to try and explain here. So for me, like women empowerment can be complicated and it can be simple as well. On a fundamental basis, what I believe is I would like all women to have full control to write their own destinies, to write their own future, to pursue their own dreams.
But and not to recognize it. Empowerment does not mean that you are yourself happy.
No.
But that the others recognize your position and go by it and not challenge. That is what empowerment is.
Correct. So what I'm also saying is this is what I think is women empowerment, and they should not be held back because of their gender. So, and in those lines, I also think education is a key to empowerment. So,
financial independence, I suppose, isn't it? Financial independence, economic independence.
Absolutely. That's also very important. But when you think about if someone has education, one can always feel and become relevant, and that opens a lot of doors for you. So while growing up, that was an opportunity that my parents gave me. My parents did not say that, okay, you're supposed to be a doctor or you're supposed to be an engineer. No, they said you be whoever you want to be. And so I pretty much was able to choose what I wanted to study, and that's what I did. So because of that, I got married to a man also who believes the same. He's never a naysayer. He's always saying, you want to do it, go for it. There's nothing holding you back here. I have two sons who grew up in my house. They're absolutely the same. They allow me to excel in all my pursuits, chase my passions.
No, but have
They
you come across another person who is not in that position? Then only you know. You have come across many women who are not empowered, right? That's why you thought about this.
And that is
What
why
is the state there?
that is why I think I have been a little empowered, and I want to give it back to the new generation to realize the same. Because I have had this opportunity, why not hand it down to somebody else who does not have it or is aspiring to it but cannot reach it yet?
But Dita, this is all a matter of degrees. I'll tell you a funny story. There was this women's conference, was it in Egypt, I think Cairo. And the leader of the Kenyan delegation, she was a minister, she had gone to Cairo, came back talking about empowerment of women, etc. Then I asked her, I said, since you have been in this business of empowering women, have you been empowered? What change has taken place in you after the Cairo conference? So she thought for a while and said, yeah, I can tell you. Now, when my husband brings another woman to the house, he seeks my permission. So she assumes that he has to bring a woman to the house, but he will ask her. She really told me this. She was a minister in the Kenyan cabinet, all seriously. So that is the degree of empowerment, how people see it. She's quite happy now.
Right.
So there are different levels. You have been lucky to have the kind of husbands you have, the children you have, etc.
Absolutely. But that
empowerment is different to different people.
Exactly. But because of that is why I must say that I'm able to understand that there are different levels of empowerment, different ways people are living, to identify that. And I'm able to assimilate from their standpoint and say, okay, if only I could let that girl do this or think like that, she might become somebody else, So that is why I think I'm empowered to help somebody else. But I do have a lot more of learning to happen for me, myself.
Geeta, tell us about your husband's view of empowerment. Does he complain that you are too independent? Honestly.
No, I'm being very, very honest. I am truly blessed to have a extremely...
He's going to watch this, so...
yeah, he's probably listening to me right now. Extremely supportive husband. I think he just lets me be. I don't need permission to do anything. I just do. One of this was, it was my longtime dream to play tennis. Growing up, I think the only thing that was shown live was Wimbledon. And I think I always played the game in my mind. I'm an ardent tennis fan. And I came here and I said, I have to go learn tennis, and Florida is perfect weather for that. So I just started from scratch, and became part of Ladies League. And, that was like such a happy day for me. And he was,
that needs a lot of sacrifice from your husband, Surainan, and children.
He's very much involved.
Karuna's speeches, I used to say that because my wife is in the charity business, I often eat cold lunch. So,
yes. He takes care of the kids and, taking them around when they've needed it. Cat in the Cradle is the song I can think of now. Now they are also independent and doing their stuff, and they come home. It's like, okay, we have to meet friends.
This is different from men in India generally. Men in India generally
Yes,
do not
yes.
work.
My mother-in-law always used to say that because she has two boys, and she would say, need to send the second boy here to learn how to, be part of everything that's happening in the house, not sit there and say coffee, chaya, or whatever, get
Chetan, if I must add, maybe you can have another tea with TPS with our husbands, and maybe they'll probably have a different story to tell.
I'm sure. What in Niranjani, what is your experience of empowerment? Anyway, you are a full-time professional, so nobody can complain that you should not go to a hospital or whatever.
Yeah, and that is my thing. That is my thing because I did my education. I did my BDS at Toronto Medical College. So wedding came after I graduated, and I had this drive in me, and that is the only thing that I told my husband when I met him for the first time, which is there is no saying no, you cannot do this. Education is prime for me, and this is what I'm going to do. So he said, absolutely, that's not a problem at all, and I'll support in any which way I can. And from day one, he's been so supportive with me doing my DDS in New York at NYU. And then being a hospital dentist, I did my residency there. And he used to tell me, you just go and you be in the doctor's on-call room. Don't come home in between. Because if you come home in between, you will force yourself to do something here. So be there, take rest, and just do what you have to do. So that's the kind of support I've had. It was also I told you I moved to North Carolina from New York. It was my decision to move to North Carolina. And he asked me, this was not a conducive place for his profession at all. And there were other places where it would have been better for him, or he would have been able to continue with his profession. But I said, no, this is where I want to go. So he said, that means this is what. So he's always been a mirror to me. When I say this is what I want to do, he'll show me, he'll tell me, okay, this is what you want to do, but this is what that's going to take. And then he's like, are you ready for that? And I'm like, yes, I'm ready for that. So honestly, my husband had to take a back seat. And that was earlier we spoke about compromise. So he literally gave up his career in New York when we moved to North Carolina. And he was instrumental in raising our children and making them and creating these beautiful girls. So if without him, do I think I would have been where I am today? Absolutely not. Thank God. Thank God. And you know what? You won't
Be
believe
aware
it.
that you are blessed because
I'm
many
absolutely aware I'm blessed.
husbands in India.
In fact, Chetan, that is why I must say, after when you listen to the three of us, we have all three of us come from very different backgrounds, and we've had very different upbringings and lifestyles in the US. But I must honestly say, this is probably why we felt like we are ready to give back our ideas and our thoughts and everything to a new generation that's growing up.
No, and
So,
the fact that you are living in the United States makes a difference. If you ask the women,
absolutely.
they have a different experience.
I
But
would say so.
let me move on to the community life of Malayalis in the United States. Here again, I have some impressions, some views, etc. Do we mix with the Americans as much as the other Indian communities do? What do you say, Rita?
I think so. Yes, we do. There's nothing, because as far as I'm concerned, I consider myself an American. So do I?
Don't you interact more with Malayalis associations, clubs, etc., etc.?
Yes, I do, because that's my comfort level. My comfort level is
Why do you
always.
want to limit your comfort level? Why don't you get into American politics? Why don't you work with American women? All that
we do. In fact, that is our next thing. Even as a foundation, we want to move on to communities here in the US, and that's what we're going to focus starting this year. And we've been in the talks with a lot of school districts with regards to that. So yes, we are moving into the American system.
Socially too. See,
Socially,
10 years in the US, I used to tell Indian communities that you have a stake in this country. Don't just think that, we'll go away, the children will go away, etc. If you think like that, you're only interested in having a good life. But if you want to have a stake in your life, you should be part of the political process.
True.
But how many Malayalis have come to the political arena? Very few. I know there are some. And it's a struggle, but that struggle has to be made. People should get into the Congress, invite your congressman. You invite them to a function, the congressman will come and read a speech and go away. But that is not how it is. I think we have to merge with the community, which I was disappointed that most people did not do that. But certain others do that. Gujaratis, for example, they always cultivate their congressmen and senators. In fact, we started encouraging them to cultivate senators and congressmen. You can only give them $1,000 a year. But if you give $1,000 to a congressman, he will be, there's no secret like that in India, not in politics here. Money is given, is recorded, acknowledged. And then you are on his list all the time. And when you write a letter to him, he will reply to you. It costs only $1,000. So I used to persuade several Indians to do that. And that's how we built the so-called India caucus in the Congress and in the Senate also. And very many battles that we had to fight as the embassy in the US Congress, we got the support of those, particularly doctors. Doctors have a great advantage because every man, however senior, junior, important, has to go to a doctor. And that is the weakest moment in his life. So if a doctor has helped him, he will swear by him. So I used to have 400 doctors who cultivated 400 US congressmen and senators. And I could tell them, within limits, what do we seek? We are only seeking friendship with the United States, nothing else. And they were very, very helpful. But I didn't see that I can't say generalized, but there are several Malayalis who have worked in the Congress. But I didn't see that. Maybe it has changed in the last 15 years, I don't know.
I think the second generation is definitely going there. I know I have one at my home. So politics is very much in their career path.
My granddaughter, she's only 17, she wants to be an American diplomat.
Yeah. So it will happen. I'm sure it will. And I hope we will see it also happen. So
there's a lot of opportunities, right?
It is changing. If you look at our next generation children in the US, many of them are taking up bold and important roles in society. Look at all our Indian origin CEOs that are suddenly coming up.
See, almost everyone is an Indian.
Exactly. And all of them
I remember we had one mayor in Teaneck in New Jersey. It was history. We used to celebrate it. Now we have congressmen, we have senators, all that has changed.
Things are getting there. That's what I'm trying to say. Like Indians, if then the next generation is trying to get into all of that.
But you have to invest in American politics. That's my point.
You have.
You may hear, sir, that one of us is standing for the local council pretty soon. So
yes,
Very good, very good. I would like to hear that more often, and I do.
I really miss my tennis days when you asked about integrating. I was the only Indian origin person on the team, and everybody was else. From different other parts of the world.
There is an Indian woman in skirts, right? They must have been astonished.
I wasn't sure if I should say that. Yes. I was the only Indian women in skirts and, just enjoying
related to that is technology. How have you taken to technology? I mean, the serious thing, we can all operate a computer, so on. But, you all heard about Yuval Harari, who once predicted that technology will overcome human beings. And if the technology can do that, human beings will become worthless if you are not in technology. And the example he gave was you can never make a truck driver a computer operator. So what does the truck driver do if everything is on computer? So he becomes worthless. This is a word he used. And he said, this is what is going to destroy humanity because you become worthless. If a robo can be placed in the White House who will perform all the responsibilities of the president, then what do you think? What will happen to humanity? Do you feel that way or? you are able to subjugate technology to your own needs?
We see that in restaurants. I was like just watching. I hardly ate the other day. The robot came, it knew where exactly to stand. And I mean, I look at it both ways. Like this morning, I'm being very honest. WebEx on my computer, I just call my husband. Please make sure it's all there.
Since it is Cisco in India, WebEx is not very well known because
Yes.
most of the people talk about Google Talk or Zoom.
Zoom,
But
yes.
WebEx is an American company, so I thought you might all have it. That's why I'm not particularly.
CNN uses a lot of WebEx, I think.
Yes,
for
yes.
their program, yeah.
No,
I had the app on my phone, but I needed it on my laptop. So I'm like, please just do it for me. So I have no glitches. So, I mean, technology scares me. I'm happy with what I can do now, but honestly, it scares me as to where we are going, artificial
When I have a
intelligence.
problem, I call my grandson in New York and he fixes it in no time. He'll never tell me how he fixed it. And he'll say, finally, Grandpa, you know nothing. That's the conclusion he reaches. Because you are always saying, that
I've
button I
heard that
cannot see. He says it is there, you are not seeing it. Here is the button in that corner. And then he gets fed up and says, I'll fix it for you, and doctor, forget about it. And that is what we should avoid. We should try to get into technology very much. And
Yeah,
children will be doing that.
Comfortable using technology.
But in your profession, of course, there must be a lot of technology there.
And I just enjoy it also, like for example, when we go and order something online, the suggestions that come is because of my past shopping experience. Similarly, Netflix, when I watch a particular movie, then the next set of choices I
This one
get.
is domination by the machine. So you are
Yes,
not thinking, they are directing you. When you go to a shop where you don't have to pay at all, no, you have a card, you get in, pick up anything and walk off. They will. So, but that they guide you to those very places they know you want. When you look at one thing, they know that you are thinking that this is too expensive. So they'll immediately direct you to a cheaper place. So they are doing it into, all the judgments that we were making and choices we were making are not human anymore.
Correct. So, but honestly, I
will understand it.
I don't think I've started thinking much about the dangers of technology or AI yet, artificial intelligence. Right now, I feel 101% confident and comfortable using it, and I use it to my advantage also. So
today in Trivandrum, an announcement was made that in future, electricity bills beyond 1,000 rupees shall be paid only digitally.
Yes,
you
online.
will not accept it on the counter. There's a big hue and cry.
Yeah.
People saying, how do I pay? I have to pay 1 rupee and I don't have a connection. I don't have a phone pay or Google Pay. So they are saying, no. Then the government said, no, don't worry. We'll give you time. Slowly we'll adjust, etc. So that's also a challenge, digital revolution.
Especially like for aged people in India, like my mother, every time all these small things the government announces, she immediately calls me, she gets excited. What am I supposed to do? Will there be any electricity? Water is also, everything is online payment now.
Exactly. So that's how they have made it official now. And it's a lot of concern. And that's the point that Harari was making. The older generation will not be able to contribute anything to the new world. Anyway, that's a bigger subject. And education system, what is your view? Can Indian education, you have studied in India and then done well in the US. Our education system is poor, we all know. I worked 5 years in the education system and I couldn't make much of a difference. But how did you cope with it, with your education here and becoming successful? Maybe Ranjini can tell us.
So,
did somebody say to you when first, oh, I don't understand the English that you speak, what are you talking about? Did you have that kind of experience?
I have had that kind of experience. And that experience was really awakening to me. So I'll tell you very briefly what that was. So I was getting into the subway, going to my school, to NYU. We used to live in the Bronx. And there was a couple standing right at the door. And I asked, "Oh, may I pass, please?" Oh, which is like very, very polite in the way that I was raised. And this gentleman just turned to me and said, "Don't you know how to say excuse me?" I was like, whoa, okay, that was a rude awakening. Yes.
That's like asking for the petrol pump on the day we arrived. They said there is no petrol pump in this country. You know? That, of course, is purely difference in English language. American language is different from English language, etc.
That is it.
But more than
But
that,
yes,
our education,
spelling was
I
not
often tell people that when we say Indian education is poor, I tell them go to American universities. Every university has a professor who was educated in model school here and intermediate college, and he is now teaching whatever metallurgy. I'm thinking of a friend of mine in Colombia. He has won all the awards except the Nobel Prize. I told him, now you don't tell me any about the awards till you get the Nobel Prize. He's that high. But he was educated in this little school.
right.
So there's nothing really wrong with our education, but the way is that it is unsatisfactory from the perspective of standards elsewhere. That is probably the thing.
So what I would say is, in the way that American kids are educated, they try to make all-rounders, And what was my little issue in my education, in my dental education, there was absolutely no problem, because in India, I mean, yes, I studied.
That's all set. You couldn't go and become a special cardiologist or anything. So naturally.
Yeah. But kids know a lot more because they are allowed to experiment in a lot of fields here. And
No, they
that
are
experimenting.
liberated. My grandchildren have just gone to college this year. Here a tendency always, what is your grandson studying? He doesn't know what he's studying. He says, I'm in the first year, I'm exploring.
That's right. Yeah.
Here,
But if you do that in India, you're done. Your life is done. That's the difference.
well, that's the advantage of an affluent society, because nobody will starve, everybody will get a job. And that confidence gives you a lot. We are running out of time. We have only 4 minutes more. So I'll ask you a very brief question, but it may be a difficult question. Was there a moment when you were very proud you are an Indian? And was there a moment you felt ashamed in the US?
Can I take that first?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So I've always been proud that I'm an Indian. And when I was raising my two girls, my one advice to them was, remember, you're always going to be referred to as an Indian American. You're born and you're raised here, but you're always going to be referred to as an Indian American. So whatever you do in your life and in society, wherever you are, remember that Indian is very important and that burden is on your shoulders because you will be referred to as that person no matter where you're raised. Never actually been ashamed of India. And that is, I'm telling you this, I moved here in 94. And in all these years, I have seen India go from okay to good to, I mean, hey, now we are at the top level internationally. Now, people here who follow politics, international politics, they come to me, my patients. They're like, hey, India is doing so good. This guy Modi is doing wonders with India. And I'm like, oh my God, that's
There must be another group there who think that Mr. Modi is doing all the wrong things. Haven't you come across that?
Probably.
And also they call India partly democracy now, not a democracy even.
I'm
so
sure.
these are all contradictions. So
yes.
No,
yes,
I did not mean politics, but as a person, when somebody said something to you, oh, is it because I'm an Indian, so I'm ashamed? That you didn't feel, right?
Never felt that.
How about you? Did you ever feel? Of course, you feel proud of India on many occasions. But did you have an occasion when you felt, oh, I'm Indian, that's why it's happening? Did you?
Are you asking me, Geeta?
Adita, you start. Or then Geeta, I'll give you the last word.
Okay, same with me. I have never felt ashamed at all of being.
They talk about poverty in India. They talk about illiberal democracy. All these things they say.
Because then we have places here to point out to them as well. So I don't think I would even allow anyone to talk to me in those lines, because I've never felt ashamed of being identified as an Indian American, or even wearing the putta and out, yeah, wearing the bindi and going out, they all come and ask you, but then after a while they're like, okay, that's who she is and that's okay.
But
So,
there's a movement called Dot Busters in New Jersey.
Yes. So, and I always if somebody comes to me and says things like that, I've always said, you all must remember, India has only been allowed to do what is best for itself now. It was always been, suppressed, crushed, and discriminated for the past 600 plus years, We're celebrating 75th years of India's independence, and she's going places. And so I'm really proud to call myself an Indian American.
Good. Okay, Geeta, your perspective.
I think when someone here asks me about India, their knowledge is from the media, okay? Depending on who they're listening to.
New York Times determines their view. And
New York Times or CNN or Fox or whatever. So
they're all prejudiced against India in various ways.
Big responsibility to either correct that view and also tell them actually as to what is happening. Because even now, they want to show pictures of the cows crossing the road. I'm like, we have gone so ahead of all that, I mean, I have my sister-in-law who just returned from India, and she's like, everything is cashless now. You don't even find that here in India. You can the vegetable vendor who comes to your house, the payment is cashless. So, I mean, we have gone so far away. So I think media plays a big role. I wish we had more responsible people in the media, but that's what life is. And they can look to us to see what India is.
You made the right point, because as a diplomat, our job was even more difficult. I was in Washington when we tested our nuclear weapons. You can imagine the entire, even Indian community, because 90% of the Indian community was with us. But everybody else turned against us. The Americans refused to talk to us. Diplomats not being able to talk to each other. The Americans said, we have nothing to tell you. We have to punish you. That kind of. So where does it come from? If you have control over New York Times or Washington Post, you can.
Exactly.
And to that extent, you have to work very hard. So I can imagine, my job was to, originally diplomats are supposed to lie abroad for their country. But you cannot lie anymore, because they see on CNN what's happening in India before I see it, right? So it is very hard to project to them what India is. And it is still difficult, because they really don't. So I always tell our Indian friends that you are the ambassadors of India. Of course, if you have ambassador's salary, of course, you don't want to be ambassadors, I'm sure. But we do tell them that for you, you are the face of India as far as your neighbor is concerned.
Exactly.
So whatever you do, they will think India is doing. And that is why Indians have to be very sensitive to this, that we are always compared, they always look at you as, when we tested, American women, old women would stand up in my meeting and cry, saying that, these poor India is making bombs. Why don't you give them soup to your people? And she is very genuine. So what do you tell them? Or when I tell them that India is the second largest Muslim country in the world, they have never heard that.
Yes.
They say, we didn't know that Muslim country, second largest. Pakistan is not the biggest Muslim country. It is Indonesia. And we are the second. How can Americans know that? They think we are killing Muslims and eating them for lunch. So this is the problem that you have. That's why I asked you that question. So
and also most of them are in awe when I tell them, like, you cross the Florida border and you go to Georgia. Now there you have another language, you have another culture, another set of work ethics. Like if you go from Tamil Nadu to Kerala, it's totally different. And they're like, really? So how do you manage? I said, well, we manage, and I'm waiting for the English elections, and maybe I can say, got you now. So.
It's almost done. So that'll be great.
I think September 3rd would be right.
Yeah, right. But he's already as the front runner.
Yeah, he is.
So thank you very much, young ladies, if I may call you, because you're all younger than me. So
no. All the greyest here.
And spending this time, we took a lot of planning to organize this. And Dita, thank you particularly for that.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for the opportunity, sir. You just made us feel so much at ease.
For a show.
Thank you so much for having us on here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you. All the best.